Hello and welcome back to episode 9 of the Boxing Social podcast with me, your host, Rob Tebbutt. And I'm delighted to be joined finally. It's been a little while, but I'm joined by my co-host, the now retired White Rhino, Dave Allen. Welcome back. Nice to see you.
Yeah, it's nice to be back on my own show. It's been busy, Rob, now it is.
Yeah, you've been so busy that you forgot that's it. You got to talk into the microphone. We never had this problem with Barry Jones.
No, Barry's very good at his job, but the thing with Barry is he's not me. Apart from that, he's perfect.
Yeah, he's not you. We'll just leave it there rather than drawing any comparisons between the two of you. But yes, how have you been? Been a while since I've certainly seen you or spoke to you. You're now retired. How's retired life?
Yeah, good. Obviously, I did episode 1, missed 8 out in between. I was in Ukraine. I was meant to fight Chris Lovejoy. Meant to fight on the Ben Famella undercard. And I ended up retiring. So, been busy, but good, yeah. Made a few life decisions, a few changes, and all the better for it.
Now, we're not going to dwell too much on the retirement today because there's a lot of boxing for us to talk about. Maybe now you've committed to doing the Boxing Social podcast every couple of weeks, there'll be a time where we can reflect on your, let's say, storied career of the White Rhino as a professional fighter. We'll leave it there. But yes, this past weekend, there was an awful lot of boxing. Let's start on Friday, Matchroom card, Saunders-Murray. Martin Murray, of course, somebody that you know very well, having trained out of the same gym for a period of time under Jamie Moore. What did you make of the fight?
Well, I was a bit sad watching it. You know, before the fight, I gave Martin a bit of a chance, to be honest. Probably a little bit of being a Martin Murray fan involved in that. You know, he's 38 years old, and he wasn't the fighter he once was, which is not going to be at 38. You know, he's not fought at the highest level for quite a few years now. But he's super tough, and as we were saying earlier, he went all 12 rounds. You know, after round 1, I thought this is only going one way. You know, Billy Joe looked really well, to be honest. Like it's not just a case of Martin not being what he was. Billy Joe was good as well, but I found it a little bit sad. But he had a great career, and you know, he gets to bow out in a world title fight in England, so it's not too bad, is it?
Yeah, I mean, it is difficult because, I mean, everybody knows about the history of Martin Murray. 5 times a world title challenger. He beat Sergio Martinez in Argentina. I won't have anybody else tell me anything different. And then obviously he had the close shaves with Felix Sturms and Arthur Abraham. And it's a shame when somebody who is as committed as he is doesn't get there in the end. But yeah, as you say, there's certainly worse ways for you to round out your career. But yeah, a tough one for Martin Murray. He did struggle to really get any imprint on the fight, didn't he?
Yeah, you know, it was very one-sided. You know, it wasn't. It was a workout for Billy Joe Saunders. You know, and if you'd have told me that was going to happen before the fight, I wouldn't have believed you. You know, you said that 5 years ago, you wouldn't believe it. And that's when it's time. That's when it's time to probably call it a day, because Martin. You know, when Martin started his career, I don't think anyone would have expected him to have won a British title. Probably what he was aiming for. He's gone on and been, the last 10, 15 years of British boxing, he's one of the most successful fighters that we've had, you know. He's not won a world title, but, like I say, he probably should have done. He's been in there with all the best middleweights of this generation. What a great career he's had, and what a great fella he is as well. You know, like I said, I didn't enjoy watching it because I got a lot of respect for him as a fighter, but more so as a man. So I didn't enjoy watching the fight. I only really watched 4 or 5 rounds because I see where it was going, and I didn't really want to watch it. So, but Billy Joe Saunders, he looked well. Thought he looked good.
So you probably stopped watching it around the time where Martin, I think it was the 4th or the 5th round where there was the knockdown that wasn't called.
Yeah, I've seen that.
And it looked like Billy Joe potentially could go on and stop Martin Murray, which would have been a big statement. Even at this stage of Martin Murray's career, he's still a very tough man. And, only Gennady Golovkin, sort of arguably a prime Gennady Golovkin, stopped him. He went the distance with George Groves, big puncher at super middleweight. Would have been a real statement for Billy Joe Saunders if he was able to get the stoppage, particularly when you've got, Canelo in a week, 2 weeks' time, boxing Callum Smith.
Yeah, it'd been nice for Billy Joe to get the stoppage. It would have been a real statement, but nothing when we're getting 12 rounds in, especially with he's not had much activity either, So for him, that was probably the best scenario. People talk about stoppages, making statements. He'll get a big fight regardless whether he beat him on points, whether he stops him. So the rounds for me is better than a stoppage.
What would you like to see next for Billy Joe? Obviously, there's Canelo Smith. Everybody's going to want Canelo or the winner of that fight. I mean, I'm assuming if Callum Smith wins that fight, there'll be a rematch anyway, so you can kind of disregard them. Is it Demetrius Andrade you want? Is it the Eubank Jr. rematch? I know George Groves was talking about that on Sky. Where would you like to see him go next?
Well, I think Canelo beats Callum Smith, to be honest. I think he'll beat him. I think he's done it super middleweight, Callum Smith. Great fight, but I just think he's done it the way the John Ryder fight showed me that. I would love to see Billy Joe fight Danny Jacobs. That's the fight for me. You know, if you can't get the Canelo fight, which is the biggest fight, everyone wants that fight. Of course he does, but for me, I'd like to see him fight Jacobs. I think that's the best fight.
I don't know how makeable that's going to be. I know Jacobs, when he boxed Rosado a couple of weeks ago on a Matchroom show, I think that was his last fight of his Matchroom deal. Eddie, when he was listing out potential names of Billy Joe Saunders' opponents, conveniently left Danny Jacobs off that list. Had Demetrius Andrade and all of the other guys over at DAZN on there, but not Danny Jacobs. What about Gennady Golovkin?
Interesting. Yeah, very interesting. That's not even one that I even thought of. You know, Billy Joe's a super middleweight now, Evan. I think Golovkin's a career middleweight. You know, I don't think Billy Joe's going to go back down. I don't think Golovkin's going to move up, so I don't think that's a possibility. I want Andrade to fight Liam Williams. Canelo Saunders is a fight, obviously, of course, for Billy Joe and for all the fans. But for some reason, I just don't see it happening. I just don't think it will happen.
Canelo Saunders?
Don't see it happening, no.
It came close, though, didn't it, this year? I mean, it was already it was done. I mean, whether or not that's an ominous, bad omen or whatever, but I mean, kind of mentioned it to Eddie, and he says, we were one day away from announcing, and just wonder if maybe those big fights are destined to potentially elude him.
With Billy Joe, it's difficult because you watch him, he's not the biggest puncher in the world and all the rest of it, but he just wins. He's one of the fighters that just wins. He just always gets the job done. So if he gets the Canelo fight or whoever else, you can never really rule him out. He always seems just to do enough, doesn't he?
Going to run through the rest of the card before we move on and talk about some of the other action at the weekend. James Tennyson looked very impressive against Josh O'Reilly. I didn't quite think he was as impressive as Johnny Nelson did, though. Raised one or two eyebrows with his post-fight assessment of James Tennyson. We'll talk about that in a little minute. But James Tennyson looks like he could be an exciting little one to watch at lightweight.
Tennyson's a beast. He's great entertainment value. Lightweight division is the best division in boxing at the minute, I think, in terms of quality and in terms of the depth of the division as well. And how good the quality is, quite a long way down on the list. There's a lot of quality there. I don't think James Tennyson's going to be a world champion, but he's going to be an exciting fight. So he's got a great future, whatever he does. I don't think the fella he beat was much cop, to be honest. I don't think he was great, was he? But he can punch. He's exciting. So what do you want? No, we can't be world champions. And when you've got your Haney's and your Lopez's and your Lomachenkos and all the rest of it, I don't really see him becoming world champion. But it doesn't mean that he's not a good fighter, because he is. Yeah, and I think it's important to point out that, while we all kind of jumped on Johnny Nelson's post-fight comments, you can see the kind of the thought process behind it from a sense of he is a big puncher. He's a big puncher at lightweight. If you're a big puncher, you've always got a chance. But Gervonta Davis can punch a little bit as well. I don't think Tennyson hits the hardest Gervonta Davis, to be honest. But he can definitely
punch.
Definitely
dig.
Definitely punch. And I think anywhere below world level, Tennyson's a massive, massive puncher. But when you're going up to world level, A, they're a little bit tougher, and B, you got a hard time trying to hit him in the first place. You can punch as you want. If you can't hit him, you're in big trouble. So I'm a massive fan of him. What I'm saying there sounds negative, but if you ask me the question, can he be world champion? I don't think he can. Can he be some great, exciting fights, make loads of money, have a great career? Absolutely, and all the best to him.
Yeah, I think they're talking about the Jorge Linares fight, which I think is shrewd. Potentially not next. I think he definitely needs a couple. As you mentioned, Josh O'Reilly, while unbeaten, didn't really seem up to much. We've seen, an unbeaten record these days doesn't really mean anything. Christopher Lovejoy will tell us all that. We got to mention, there he is. It'll be the last time. But anyway, James Tennyson versus Jorge Linares is an interesting fight. Linares, he's been caught cold. He got knocked out at 140 recently, since moved back down to 135. But you'd think that Tennyson would need a bit more seasoning before you'd throw him in with somebody as experienced and as skillful as Linares.
Well, I think Tennyson's had a lot of amateur experience and he's had a lot of pro fights. So it's a case of how much better is he going to get? I don't really think he's going to get much better at all. I met Linares as a big favourite. Again, I'm biased, big Linares fan, and he had a great career. Not as good as he once was. He is susceptible to being hit and hurt. And it's not what you want against James Tennyson. I met Linares as a big favourite, but just make it next. What's the point hanging around? You know, he's not 21, 22, is he? So, and he's not only had 15, 16 bouts. Just make it happen next, in my opinion. Why not? That's what James Tennyson's really exciting. He can lose 10 fights and still people still want to watch him. So, I'll just do it next.
Okay, interesting. I'd personally like to see him take a fight in between there, but it would be great if that fight was to happen next. I think it'd be very exciting. Obviously, Linares, as we mentioned, very well known for his, he did that UK tour, didn't he? Boxed Crawler twice, boxed Kevin Mitchell, boxed Campbell, admittedly, in America. Johnny Nelson. So the statement after the fight caused a few raised eyebrows. You know Johnny, and you've known Johnny for a number of years. Do you think he believes what he's saying when he says that?
You know, with Johnny, I've known him a long time since I was a kid, so I have to look at Johnny as Brendan Ingle to me was one of the most important people I've ever met, and he loved Johnny. Johnny was like another kid to him, you know what I mean? So I always looked at Johnny like I've got respect for him. That's just, you got to have it for him, you know what I mean? Because the love that Brendan had for him and the fact that I was brought up in the same gym and all the rest of it, but and he knows his boxing at the back of his hand. He's been around it for so long, and he was successful as a fighter. Some of the stuff he says is questionable. I don't know. I think if you put a camera in front of someone and it's live, you just seen something really good. You know, you don't get a second chance. We do this podcast now. One of us says something, and then in 5 minutes' time, I think sounds a bit daft. Actually, I wish I would have said that. I got a bit excited or whatever. We can take it back and start again when you live on Sky Sports. You don't get that chance. So, because of his knowledge and his experience, I give him the benefit of the doubt. But yeah.
Nicely done, David. Well done. Personally, I don't. It's not so much saying, because I had a bit of stick from people who, I tweeted a few tweets about it. And people were saying, why can't he beat him? It's just his opinion. I get that completely. And it's certainly not to disrespect James Tennyson at all. But we've seen James Tennyson at the world level, admittedly 130 pounds, which ironically is where Gervonta Davis actually is right now, and come up short against Tevin Farmer, not known for being a puncher, dropped him several times. We've seen him stopped elsewhere in his career as well. To me, there just isn't the evidence to make that leap, I think is fair to say. I don't see what that opinion can be based on. All of the evidence that we can see arguably points to the contrary. And it wasn't necessarily him saying, I feel like, 1 or 2 fights, we get him in there and he can compete. It was very much, he beats Gervonta Davis now. And I think that was kind of the part of it that was questionable. I think if you make that point in a certain way, like Eddie did, I spoke to Eddie this morning, and he said, he punches hard enough that he can knock anyone out. Yes, I get that. But that's kind of your safety net, whereas Johnny Nelson he really said it with his chest and made a point of it.
Well, for me, every fight I ever look at, I look at it and I base my opinion on the facts, And that's steered me wrong a few times. The experienced man who's proven at a certain level has been beat by the kid coming through. It's happened a number of times. But that is one of the, like I said, a lot of respect for Johnny and the rest of it. But I don't think it was his best shout, to be honest.
That is by far the most diplomatic I've ever seen you. So you must have a heightened level of respect for Mr. Nelson, as do I. I'm certainly not saying that. Again, people, even Eddie, who said he's ex-cruiserweight champion, he boxes, he knows more about boxing than me or you. I get that, I understand that. But anyway, we'll leave it there and push it to one side. Talking about the rest of the card, me and you, we've spoke quite a bit recently. I say recently, over the last few months, about female boxing, about women's boxing, which isn't something that we used to. I mean, even going back to the previous podcast, it wasn't kind of a staple of the segments. Shannon Courtney returned. Interesting opponent, Dorota Norek.
Do you know what the problem is with women's boxing, right? Katie Taylor, Clarissa Shields, Savannah Marshall, Chantal Cameron, Natasha Jonas, Terry Harper. I'd even put Shannon Courtney in and around that bracket. I think she'll get there. Great talent. Love watching them. Great fights. but the talent pool is so shallow. You know, it's Harper and Jonas and Taylor Pursuit, fantastic fights. We was only here a few months ago saying how great they were, but when you've got Katie Taylor boxed the woman for the world title the other week, yeah. I wish I could have boxed the world title against someone of that caliber that she boxed, because she wasn't very good at all. She was terrible, and that sounds harsh. She was tough and the rest of it in game, but she was terrible. She was really bad. The talent pool is so shallow. The woman that Shannon Courtney boxed the other day, again, tough in game, because that's what you have to be a boxer. You got to be tough in game, but the level of ability, she was shoving Shannon instead of punching her half the time with two hands. The talent pool is so small. It's really hard. Rachel Ball won a version of a world title the other week, and I just thought, I love watching good fighters, mate. So for women's boxing, if you're going to put it on the TV, get the best fighting the best, because if not, it's not something I don't think people want to watch very much.
The thing is, like, it's kind of the flip side of the positive few months that there's been for female boxing, in the sense of, we've sat here and we've spoke about Harper Jonas, Shannon Courtney versus Rachel Ball was a very good fight. Katie Taylor, Delphine Pursuit. We spoke about those big fights. Even like Jess McCaskill and Cecilia Breakhouse was a great fight. And then kind of you see the other side, and admittedly Shannon Courtney coming off the back of her first career loss, she's not going to be going in there against a particularly dangerous opponent. But when you hear Eddie talk about, I think she's ready for a world title now, and you kind of think, well, off that performance against that opponent, that kind of brings us back down to earth, I think, a little bit sometimes with women's boxing.
The difficult thing with Shannon is she's very popular. She's unbelievably popular. And when she watched Rachel Ball, even though she lost in parts, she looks a really good fighter. I thought, yeah, she's good. She's doing some really good things. She's coached really well down there. And that's why she got to be on the TV. There were times when people said, Dave Allen shouldn't be on the TV, but being popular, you are. And I think it's a double-edged sword for Shannon, because I watched it the other day, and I watched it, and I just thought, this is pretty poor stuff, to be honest. Her opponent was pretty poor, and it's not Shannon's fault, but that's the thing with women's boxing. That's what I was saying. The talent pool is so shallow. But what I can say is, in the next, this Olympic cycle, the one after that, I do believe by the time after the 2028 games, women's boxing will be as densely populated as the men's game, with as much talent, But at the minute, these kind of the German girl who boxed she boxed on Eva, lovely woman, but shouldn't even be in a boxing ring. To be brutally honest, shouldn't even be in a boxing ring. And if she should, it should be in an amateur boxing ring, And that's the problem. And they're the kind of girls you're bringing over to fight. They're like Shannon Courtney, who's got an amateur background, who's a good fighter. And it makes for bad viewing, in my opinion.
Moving on, elsewhere on the card, we saw Lerrone Richards make his Matchroom debut. Bit of a mixed bag, I think is fair to say, for Lerrone. Kind of, again, alluded to it on Twitter about matching fighters and how important it is to get it right when you're matching somebody like a Lerrone Richards, who is a very, very laid back, very skillful as the day is long. He's got a real bag of tricks. I know you're a big fan of him. Yeah. But not the right opponent for Lerrone Richards to showcase what he's best at. Would you agree?
Well, it depends what you're looking for. Does Dave Caldwell want him to do rounds? If you do, that fella's all right. Do you want to sell him to the general public on his Sky and Matchroom debut and get people talking about him and get in the fight?
Trying to find that happy medium, isn't it?
If Lerrone's the real deal, and you're confident he is, then get him to knock him over in a round or two, then get a big fight. If not, get there. It depends what you want. If I'm looking after, like with Danny, MTK managing, but I match his debut, and I'll continue to match him as he goes on, and I'll match him to that he'll go the distance every time, So I enjoy watching Lerrone. He's so talented. But he's probably some proper punch power of being a world champion, in my opinion. And if something's going to hold him back, that is what it's going to be. But I enjoyed watching him the other day. But I understand for the people that tune in to watch boxing that aren't massive boxing fans, they're not really going to enjoy it very much, because they're not going to understand what the skill that he's got. So people are asking me a lot about matching lately. it's the most important, hardest part of working with a boxer, because you got to match them right, and Lerrone might get some stick and for his performance not being exciting. People might talk about it for a few weeks, but them 8 rounds will be invaluable for his next fight, which he might win, and then that 8 rounds forgot about, and he's got a big win. Everyone's talking about him in a good light. So I don't know. The answer's not there yet till he fights next time.
Yeah, I mean, I spoke to Dave Coldwell yesterday, even though the fight was on Friday. Caught up with him yesterday, and he said that ideally he would have boxed, sort of not necessarily the way he boxed, but he would have got him out of there after 6 or 7 rounds. He would have thrown a flurry of punches of 30, 40 seconds. I think he likened it to when Joe Calzaghe would have a fighter hurt, he'd go and he'd just completely empty the tank and get the referee to jump in. And I think the referee would have, because the fight was so one-sided that if Richards would have just shown that little bit of aggression and that sustained pressure, I think the referee would have pulled the fight. But it is difficult because in Lerrone Richards, I'm not sure necessarily punching power is going to be what holds him back, but more the kind of the rhythm that he fights at. It's a very methodical, very sort of calculated pace, and he doesn't quite go through the gears, which is, I know, something that Dave has been very keen for him to work on. And you kind of look at the opponent in Timo Lane, who didn't really come to do anything apart from survive, and you look at it and you think, yeah, this isn't going to be pretty, and it didn't look pretty.
I seen something interesting with Adam Bove. He was a pundit the other week. I can't remember which show it was.
For the Conor Ben show.
Yeah, and he said something really interesting, which stuck with me. He said, if you fight unfit for many, many years, when you get fit, you're not sure what to do. You can't up the pace. Lerrone's an unbelievable fighter. So it's like, we won the boys' clubs the same year, 2011, and my old man said, after I won the national title, I was so happy. And Daddy said he was the best fighter on the show tonight, because I won 36-5. I won by a mile. I watched really well. And he went, Lerrone Richards.
Sounds like your dad.
I went, all right. It's all right, nice one. Anyway, but on that same show, there was Jack Cattrall. He won the title. I won the title. Lawrence Okoli, Ted Cheeseman. And my old man, ever since that night, Lerrone Richards was the best on there by a country mile. Unbelievable talent. And he has got that. But you talk about upping the pace. I think it's a very difficult thing to do. When I got fit, when I boxed Lucas Brown, I still couldn't go through the gears. I couldn't do it because I've not done it for 10 years of boxing. So I can't. 6 weeks of running and getting fit isn't going to make you up the gears. Doing fast work on the pads, doing bag work. I think it's a very difficult thing to get out of. You can't. If you don't go, if you can't undo 15 years of boxing a certain way. I don't think you can ever undo it, to be honest. So that'd be interesting to see what he does. I wish him the best, because he really is one of the nicest men in boxing.
Yeah, he's a very nice guy. Very very quiet, very mild mannered, but very nice. And yeah, you're right there. And it's sort of again, people saying, well, why doesn't he just walk forward and let his hands go and stop him? I just mentioned there, and it's, as you say, difficult for a fighter who is that's ingrained in him. That's his style. Negative, really. You could, put him in the negative bracket. I mean, we were watching the Tommy Langford fight a couple of years ago now, and it looked very similar to that. Admittedly, Tommy Langford was doing far more than Timo Lane was. But if it's in you, to box that way, it is difficult to get out of that. But I know that is something that Dave Coldwell is trying to get out of him. And as you rightly say, it's probably going to be the next time we see him that we see, and hopefully he gets to showcase his talent against a slightly more adventurous opponent. Quick last couple on that card this past weekend. Dante Dixon. How much do you know about Dante Dixon out of Sheffield?
You know what? I've seen Dante box. I've only seen him box once as an amateur. It was Manor Working Men's Club. And everyone was raving about him. This was probably... I was there with Tommy Coyle. He had a kid on, and I had a mate of mine. They fought each other. And Dante was on. Everyone was raving about him. I can't remember what happened, to be honest. I wasn't really watching, but I remember hearing great things about him. I've heard great things about him for so long. It's not even a good story, is it?
It wasn't even a story.
But everyone was raving about him from there. Roger trains him, and Roger's a very good coach. He's got some good fighters. Everyone was raving about him, so I thought, okay, so it stuck with me, ingrained in there. And then he turned pro, and I knew I was working with Billy Joe Saunders. So I thought, all right. So I watched him box at Sheffield Arena. Unbelievable talent. Couldn't believe how good he was. He's only 20 years old as well. He's good. He's seriously good, yeah. And everyone was raving about him years ago. So I've always kept my ears to the ground, so to speak. See how he's got on. And I think he's the real deal. I think he'll go really far, actually. Yeah.
it's good to have this boxing as most sports, but obviously we love boxing. We follow boxing more than any other sport, but it goes in cycles, doesn't it? And now we've kind of had the end of the great Sheffield fighters like Kell Brook, like Dave Allen, even though you're not from Sheffield. You're a great fighter. I have to say that because we're locked in here together. But now we've got your Dalton Smiths, your Dante Dixon, dare I say, your Danny Morrell coming through from that part of the world, which is great to see.
Yeah, obviously Kell's gone, and Kid Galahad probably gone forever, Barry, to be fair.
Yeah, the way he trains, he probably will, yeah.
But yeah, Dante and Dalton, they're the two coming through from Sheffield, Like I say, Danny as well. Danny, Doncaster, Sheffield, Rotherham, all that area. And I think, especially Dalton, I think I think Dalton will be world champion. And I think the next 18 months, 2 years, Dalton, Dante, Danny, and a few others. Terry Harper's leading the way at the minute. In my neck of the woods. There's going to be some great shows on. Dante. I watched him. I can't remember who he boxed, but I remember thinking he's really, really good. And I don't think that about a lot of people, to be honest. But he was one of them. I was surprised at that, how good he was.
You're surprisingly, I don't know about surprisingly, but you're a tough judge, aren't you?
Well, people say I wasn't the best boxer in the world, but I know boxing inside out. And now I'm retired, I look back and I think, to say how much I trained, I must have been pretty good actually at what I did. I must have been all right. I was quite good at boxing. The other stuff, kind of like the training and stuff, let me down. But yeah, I'm a tough man to please with the boxing. Yeah, but cause being fit and being strong and being powerful and all the rest of it don't really impress me. Skill impresses me, and Dante is very good.
Okay, well, before we hear from our guest this week, let's talk about the other fight on this show, the other main event on this show on Saturday night. Anthony Yarde versus Lyndon Arthur, the Commonwealth, and as Lyndon reminds me in our interview coming up next, the WBO Intercontinental Light Heavyweight Championship on the line as well. What did you make of the fight?
It wasn't the most exciting fight in the world, but it was one I really, really enjoyed, actually. Really enjoyed it. Lyndon Arthur, I texted a kid I train at 10 to 3, 250 it was, and I said, watch this fight, mate. And it was Lyndon Arthur, Dex Spellman. I said, watch this. This is how you box when you're a tall kid like you are. And got to use the jab, everything with the jab. The jab is defense, it's attack, it's everything, A good jab for me does all of them things. A good jab is a better defence than anything, because you got a jab in someone's face. They can't eat you back, and I can eat you back when the rest of people are not back all the time. Lyndon's got one. I think Lyndon possibly got the best jab in British boxing, and he beat Anthony Yarde with it. To be honest, he didn't just beat Anthony Yarde. He beat Anthony Yarde, and he beat Anthony Yarde's corner with a jab. And Lyndon Arthur won that fight. After 11 and a half rounds, I went and made a cup of tea. I said, "This is over." I said, "He's won. There's no way he's not won this fight. No one's going to get stopped, and he's won." And I made a cup of tea and I came back and I watched the scores. I couldn't believe 117, 111 to Yarde, to be honest, because no way he won 9 rounds. He didn't even win 6. And I'm a big Yarde fan as well. I'm a big Yarde fan. I think he can be world champion.
I'm hearing that a lot. I mean, we've done a few interviews since the fight, spoke to a few people. I'm hearing similar stuff from a lot of people. I'm a big Anthony Yarde fan, but is kind of the start to a lot of replies that I'm getting when I'm asking people about the fight. What is it? What is it about him that makes you say that? Why is that but in there?
He's got so much talent. He's probably one of the best athletes in British boxing. But something not right. The corner work, Tunde don't really like me, but I never met Tunde, so I couldn't say a bad word about him, really.
Talking to your microphone. There you go.
I couldn't say a bad word about him. But the corner work was pretty poor.
Dave, do you want to just move the mic slightly to your right, mate? Because you can lean in more and more right. So just.
Is that sound?
Yeah, keep. A bit more.
This way again.
That's it.
There you go.
You're talking to the mic. You're not talking to Rob.
Talk to the mic.
All right. Pick it up from there, guys. We're still rolling.
What was I saying?
I don't know.
Yeah,
We'll pick it up because Dave can't talk into the mic.
I can't remember what I was saying. Sunday. Yeah.
Yes.
I think I hate saying that anyone needs a new trainer, even if Tunde don't like me, even for whatever, because the amount of time and effort Tunde will have put in with him, and the love he'll have for him, I could never come out and say he needs to change trainers. I wouldn't say that, but
you think he should change trainers?
No, that's not what I'm saying.
There's
no reason why Tunde still can't be involved, but Anthony needs to go. He doesn't need to, but I've been interested. I've been intrigued. I've been really intrigued by watching him work with Adam Booth. Someone that's going to tell him what to do, he's going to do it. There's lines in the camp. No. How about you slip to the left and throw a left hook, or how about you do anything to get inside his jab? Why don't you make him miss one or two of them? Someone that's going to tell him that, someone that's going to show him something new and different. And again, it gets to the point where you're doing the same thing for so long, it gets ingrained in you, and it's too late. And that's the reason why I retired at 28. I was never going to change at 28. You can't teach an old dog new tricks. So I'm not saying get a new trainer. I'm just saying I'd be definitely intrigued by what he could do if he did get a new trainer.
The things like Tunde's kind of made no secret over the years of his, he doesn't mind ruffling some feathers and winding people up as and when he feels like it. So whether or not it's people kind of having a dislike for him or what, but I think if you look at the performances in the Sergei Kovalev fight and then the Lyndon Arthur fight, they're two very, very similar performances wherein he couldn't get past the jab, he couldn't close the distance often enough, left his feet behind him, couldn't cut the ring off. And these are issues that really, what they always say, the first thing you learn how to do in boxing is to throw the left hand. The second thing you learn how to do is to get out of the way. And we've seen two fights.
I would argue the other way around. I would teach you the other way around.
But that's why you're a coach
This
extraordinaire.
Well, Danny Garcia from Journeyman Amateur to one of the hottest prospects ever.
But you get what I'm saying with regards to something like that.
But how many rounds did he win in Kovalev and
Well, this
Arthur?
is the thing.
How many rounds did he win?
Does
he flatter to deceive? Does he look the part? Does the work that he's doing in the gym make him look like he's got all the moves, but he just can't do it?
But if you look at you look at the, I don't know what round it was the 8th round that he almost had Kovalev in Russia, and then obviously the final round of the Lyndon Arthur fight where he was able to hurt Lyndon Arthur to the body, landed a nice right hand as well. And I think I tweeted something similar at the time of, where was this urgency in round 8, 9? And, if, again, it kind of comes back to, well, he was being told in the corner that he was winning the fight easy, that Lyndon Arthur was scared. Lyndon Arthur, as he's come out and said after the fight, he didn't have use of his right arm. It was pretty evident for everybody who was watching that he was only using one arm. Yet there wasn't really a change in Anthony Yarde's game plan or in the way that he approached the fight until the very, very last round where it was too late.
Well, I think Lyndon just all-manned him, controlled him with a jab. Lyndon is defensively very cute, very good. When Anthony Yarde's throwing a jab, he's blocking it mere inches from Anthony's own body. Lyndon's very, very good fighter on the GB for years. Very, very good fighter. But with Anthony Yarde, I watch him and I just think he's not got much experience, really. I think he's been matched pretty poor. I don't believe all the shite about him not sparring.
No, that's not true.
That's not true. Of course he spars. But I just think, and I don't know about his pad work, because it's shrouded in mystery. Does he do proper pad work? Does he just do that pad work? What does he do? I don't know. We're all saying, people saying get rid of Tunde because he doesn't spar, because he doesn't do proper pad work. But they definitely do spar, and they probably do proper pad work as well. So maybe Anthony Yarde's just not as good as we all think he is, or think he could be. Or maybe he's badly trained and he doesn't need to go somewhere else. There's only two people who know the truth that answer, and that's Anthony Yarde and that's Tunde. I don't know. It's not for me to sit here and say get a new trainer or tell Anthony to go somewhere else. They'll know. And again, going back to myself, because it's the easiest way of explaining things. I told Danny left me to go and train with Dominic Ingle because I told him to. Because I said that's the best move for you, son. So you've got to go up there, and you've got to be around. You got to be around great fighters like Willie Hutchinson, Liam Williams, guy like go there and learn off them, because I ain't got them kind of kids I can teach you how to box. I have taught you how to box, but you got to be around great fighters to get better. And I think Anthony Yarde, I don't think he's even got that in the gym with him, to be honest.
Final one on Anthony Yarde, because Lyndon Arthur made the very, very valid point of the fact that everybody seems to be focusing on the loser, as we did last week with Dubois Joyce, but that's another story. Where next for Anthony Yarde? Because he's taken that jump from not even really domestic level of where he was fighting before the Sergei Kovalev fight, then has fought Kovalev, and he's now come back down to domestic level and been beaten. So regardless of what happened, I mean, obviously he's got the rematch clause. Lyndon Arthur said, if the fight, I'm spoiling the interview that's coming up next, that if the fight is there and they can take that fight, that's the fight that they're looking for. But that's essentially win or bust.
Well, I think for Lyndon, the biggest fight is the Yarde rematch. I would think financially and otherwise, it's the biggest fight for him. If Anthony Yarde got the decision, they wouldn't have gone near Lyndon again. They wouldn't have gone anywhere near him. But for Anthony Yarde, for me, if I'm looking at Anthony Yarde, yeah, I'm going to sit him down and I'm going to say, look, Anthony, we're not talking about him, because I don't want to say someone get a new trainer. I don't like saying things like that. So what I would say is, someone else in his position, I would say, look, you're going to go and train with Adam Booth, yeah? You're going to start again. The ego has to go. There's too much ego involved in all these things. Ego's got to go. You're not world class. It's been proven. Kovalev stopped you, and you've lost Lyndon Arthur. Ego's got to go out the window. Let's win a British title. Let Lyndon Arthur move on. Let's win a British title. Let's do it properly. Let's do it, because I believe he can do it. I believe he can get to world level. But ego's got to go. I don't like the Arthur fight for him. I think Arthur's a bad style for him. I would let that go. Maybe come back to that again. If Lyndon keeps winning and Anthony starts and keeps winning, it can happen again. But I think he's got to be matched a lot better. Just drop a few levels and start again. It's not too late at all for him to do that. It's not even that experience, really.
No, but it's difficult to say to somebody who's, by all accounts, he got paid very well to box Sergei Kovalev. He's now come back, and I would imagine he would have been paid pretty well to box Lyndon Arthur. He's 29 now. Anthony Yarde, he's older than you. To try and convince him to really peel it all back and essentially rebuild again is potentially a very, very tough thing to ask somebody to do on the back of those successive. I mean, he had the fight in Spain, the kind of the mess around fight in Spain, but on the back of those two performances, to tell somebody to kind of strip it down and rebuild again, and I don't think that will happen.
Well, if he doesn't, he'll never win a world title. That's a fact. Never. He'll never win a world title. And if he boxes Lyndon again straight away and makes no changes, he gets beat again. I saw nothing the other night that made me think that Lyndon won't beat him with two hands. Not at all. If Anthony goes away and has 3 or 4 fights in the meantime, 3 or 4 more Dex Spellman type fights, then he probably would. But if he boxes him again in 4 months' time, Lyndon's got 2 good hands. Who's going to win? And that's not being derogatory about anybody. That's just me stating facts as they are. I don't think he'd beat him. There's too much ego in boxing, and I was the same towards the end, and that's why I stopped. Because I wasn't going to get any better, because my ego had got to a point where I wouldn't box him. Thought I was too good to box him. There wasn't enough money in this. Wasn't enough money in that. So you got to leave your ego at the door if you want to get where you want to get, and I hope he does, because I do enjoy watching him when he's winning, which usually means he's the one that's in with people that are overmatched. But yeah, I wish them all the best. I hope they make the right decision, whatever that may be.
That's enough about Anthony Yarde. I caught up with the winner of Saturday night's fight, Lyndon Arthur, the Commonwealth and WBO Intercontinental Light Heavyweight Champion, earlier on today, to see what his thoughts were from Saturday night and his plans ahead. This is Rob Tebbutt for Boxing Social in association with Betfred, and I'm delighted to be joined by the still Commonwealth Light Heavyweight Champion Lyndon Arthur, following his brilliant win over Anthony Yarde this past weekend.
I'm also WBO Intercontinental Champion now. Let's just get that in there.
He's also the WBO Intercontinental Champion. He's not going to let me forget. And why would he? What a brilliant performance this past weekend. Lyndon Arthur, first and foremost, congratulations. Great performance.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it.
Talk to me about the fight. First and foremost, I guess, was there anything that surprised you about the fight?
No, nothing at all. I knew I knew I was a better boxer than Anthony, and it proved in there. The fight was at my pace the whole way through. Part of the last round, he must have felt like he needed the last round to knock me out. He tried and he couldn't do it. So there's nothing surprised me. Nothing at all.
Let's just start with, one of the things that people have spoke about most after the fight has been your right hand. There's been a lot of talk about that. You've since come out and said that you were injured. Just tell us a little bit about what happened. I know that you don't want to take away from the night and the performance, but it is a major talking point.
You know what? As I said in the post-fight interview straight after the fight, I didn't want to say nothing to do with the injury, but the way that they're going on, like I get robbed and it's just the way that the whole thing just kind of disrespected the fact that I won. Like, yeah, I was injured and I didn't have a right hand too much. But you know what's mad about it? Even if I did have a right hand, essentially I still beat if I still won the fight with one hand. So it makes no difference whether it was or it wasn't. I won, and that's fact. And the majority of everyone around boxing and around, you've got an opinion on the fight is that I won clearly. And now that I've watched the fight back myself, it wasn't as close as I thought it was. Straight away from the post-fight interview, it wasn't as close. I won by at least 4 or 5 rounds easily. And that's not me saying I absolutely dominated the fight, but I definitely won the rounds that were close, and I was landing the more, like, even if it was just a jab, I was landing it more than he was, and I most definitely won the fight by more 4 or 5 rounds, maybe even more than that. I don't know. It depends who watched it and what you like and what you decide that you like at the night of the fight. But it wasn't close.
When did you get the injury? Obviously, there were some people talking about potentially literally right before you got into the ring. I saw your post-fight interview you did with IFL when you said that you hadn't been able to use it for several weeks. What happened and when did it happen?
Do you know what? I just think it's wear and tear. I'm getting old. I'm nearly 30 now. It's something that I get checked over now. And I'll maybe get an X-ray on it, see what's going on inside, get one of them scan things, and I'll know more about it. But it was hurting for weeks before the fight, with regards to throwing it. But again, it is what it is. It's no excuses. Even though it was sore, I still won the fight. It's not like I lost the fight. I'm saying, oh, my hand was sore. Like, I don't need to say my hand was sore because the be all and end all of the situation is I won with or without a right hand. I didn't need to have it. It's all mad. The whole situation is mad. I'm getting treated like I lost the fight. Can you imagine the loss is more important than the win in a fight because everyone built it up, built Yarde up to be something that essentially is not.
You can already sense the frustration in your voice with saying that. Something that somebody you know very well, a good friend of yours, Sonny Edwards, has already alluded to. Why do you think that is? And it seems as though you rightly say.
He's been built up to be. He's probably had a lot of money pumped into him, and a lot of advertisement and stuff like that. So then when it's me, I was supposed to get beat this. I honestly believe they wanted me to. I was supposed to get beat this fight. And I just believe that they didn't expect me to come and win. Because really and truly, I've not got the name like Yarde does. I've not been promoted like Yarde does. And like I said a second ago, the fact that he's lost is bigger than the fact that I won. How can that be? Why? Same thing happened the other week with the Dubois and Joyce. Same thing happened. Like the fact that Dubois lost was more than the fact that Joyce won. It's like, nah, give Joyce his credit. Just flipping, whether the fight was boring or not, he just jabbed somebody's head off and to the point where he had an injury and he had to quit. not quit, but he had to stop. He felt like he didn't want to go on. He did that. So give him his props. Same as me. I've gone in there. I beat a guy who let's have it right. He's probably one of the most dangerous light heavyweights in British boxing right now. His knockout record. Yeah, I late me part of the last round because my defense and my footwork was great. No, I'm not getting credit for that. I'm not getting credit for beating Yarde. I'm not, and you know what? I can't hear from nobody now that he wasn't good anyway, because now he was a monster. You know what I mean? And that's keeping the monster. I just beat him now. Keep that energy. I'm not a loser. I'm a winner in this situation.
You're right in what you say there, and I think you make a good point about the last couple of weeks. The focus has been on the loser as opposed to the winner. So again, to reiterate, congratulations. Your performance, how much better do you think your performance could have been if you had full use of your right arm?
Yeah, I just think everybody knows already. Do you know what I mean? Like, again, I won with one arm. So imagine if I threw my right hand a bit more. Imagine I caught him a bit more. Cause I'm also sure, yeah, because it's mad, when you watch the fight back, you hear Tunde say, "Is there his right hand? Is there his right hand?" And just as I come out, I threw it, boom, put him back another couple rounds, didn't come again. So imagine I had full power in it. Do you know what I mean?
What's next for you? We've heard about the rematch clause, rematch for
That's for my team. Essentially that's for my team to work out. Of course, I'm a fighter. You ask me, will I fight King Kong right now? I'm gonna say, yeah, of course. You ask me after the fight, will I fight again? Yeah, of course. But essentially, it's for my team to work out. It's not what I do. I box, I train hard. Blood, sweat, and tears. I do that. I don't promote. Well, I do promote myself, but I mean, essentially, I don't. I'm not. That's not my job to do what you're asking. I don't know what's next. We'll see. I feel like I'm now in a much better place. My price has risen. I'm doing okay.
What did Pat have to say about the fight? We saw him during the fight urging you to throw the right hand and urging you to be a little bit busier. What did he say to you after the fight?
After the fight, we've not even really analysed it yet like that. We're just in the moment still. It's a big thing what I've just done, and again, I'm not gonna let this get downplayed. I know what I've done. I know what I've just done. So we're not even talked about it yet. We'll go. When I get back, I'm still in London. So when I get back home, I'm sure Pat's a perfectionist. Great trainer, took me from amateur, can't even throw a punch, smoking weed, to BT headline, 6 in the world, ranked number 6 in the world in a couple boxing organizations. Do you know what I mean? So Pat will know what I've got to do. Pat will know what I didn't do. And we'll go in there. I'm still learning, so we'll go back in the gym and we'll do what I need to do.
You've just spoken about the fact that you've been, slightly frustrated that maybe you haven't got the credit that you deserve, but you must feel great. I mean, you've gone through it. It's been a long process. Even the fight itself got put back and put back and put back. You've gone in there by your own admission as expected to lose, so to speak, and you've pulled it off. So you still must feel absolutely brilliant at the minute.
I'm happy. I'm happy. Trust me, I'm happy. Inside, I'm happy. It's still a bit of a and it's so bittersweet. It's so more means so more because I wasn't supposed to win, and the bookies. Do you even see the odds? How much money I kid you not. I've had at least minimum 200 to 300 messages saying you've won me good money this weekend. Thank you. Just through going through my message requests and just seeing and going through it. I tried to reply. It's hard, but I've tried to reply to every single person that's messaged me. I've tried to do it, but there's just too many to do. So the ones that I've seen, I've said thank you and I appreciate the support. But the ones that I've not, it's all thank you. You've won me this. You've won me that. Like the bookies lost this weekend and last weekend with the Joyce, but that's how much there was no belief in apart from in my camp. And obviously the people around me, and obviously some people but I mean, we got like the whole situation. Like the 9-2, the bookies have me. 40-1 on the split decision. Like I don't get it. It's mad. But you know what? Like you say, it is what I'm happy. Trust me, I'm happy. You not pop my bubble. You not burst my bubble.
That's good. That's what it's all about. I mean, I understand your frustrations with certain things that have gone around, around the fight, but it's good to hear you say that you're happy and you're pleased, because it's been a brilliant weekend for you and a great performance. What next, as in the immediate future between now and Christmas? I'm sure you're going to have a brilliant Christmas at home.
Oh, listen, I'm just chilling. Like I'm chilling. Trust me, I'm chilling. I'm going to enjoy Christmas. I've got, that's it. I'm just going to enjoy. I'm going to chill. I'll still run and stuff like that. But like you say, I'm going to enjoy Christmas, and whatever's next, my team will do for me, and they'll do it well.
Okay, one of the final things before I let you go is one of the things I wanted to touch upon. Over the years we've seen Ricky Hatton, we've seen Anthony Crolla. Manchester boxing is kind of without that massive stellar name. Obviously Tyson Fury, but he's kind of here, there, everywhere, being a traveller as he is. What a win for not only yourself, but also for Manchester boxing, having such a big platform and pulling out the win.
Exactly, man. And that's what I'm saying. I had no idea the amount of messages that I've got from just essentially in Manchester, and everyone. Like, I didn't know that many people was going to tune in and watch. I knew it was a big fight, but like, there's a lot of people that like I didn't know would take too much notice from where I'm from. Do you know what I mean? And it seems like the whole of Manchester kind of watched and got behind me in that sense, in this fight, and it's just overwhelming, and it's mad to see, because I just doing what I love. I was doing the sport of boxing. This is just what I've been, this is just what I happen to be good at, and and it's not even like a job. Even though it's a career, it's not even like that, because I love the sport of boxing. I love being in the ring. I love everything about it, except dieting. But apart from that, man, it's like I say, it's been overwhelming. The amount of support messages I've got, even before the fight. It's good luck. Whether they thought I was going to lose or not, it's irrelevant. Just the fact that people were saying good luck, and like I said, I come from the East State, so I'm just happy. I'm happy to be where I am. It could have been worse. That's what I mean. Can't complain.
You certainly can't. Final couple just on the fight before I let you go. Nice and relaxed today, so we'll leave you to it. Final couple on Anthony Yarde. What was his power like? You mentioned his punching power and the fact that he was this big knockout artist, the beast from the East, etc. What was his punching power like?
I mean, it was good, but I've got a good job. I've got a good chin. I showed that in the fight as well. He caught me in the 12th round with a belting right hand as I tried to throw the uppercut. Because he hurt me because he got me with a body shot, I just felt like I needed to get into a bit of a fight with him at the end. And that's probably why I got a bit reckless with it, because I thought, right, he's caught me with a body shot. I don't really want to show him that he caught me with a body shot, so let's have a bit of a go. And he ended up catching with a right hand, and he caught me with a couple of right hands early. It wasn't put to sleep power. It wasn't nothing I can't take. But that must be just having a good chin. It must be what that is. Because I'm tough. I can give myself that.
And just finally, what did you make of his comments after the fight? Really, he's been calling robbery and saying that he felt he's won the fight. What do you make of that?
You know what? Like I said, when I first got out the ring, because of the 12th round, I thought the fight was a lot closer than it was. Because it's like when you get hit more than you used to getting hit, you feel like you've been hit even more than that. So I just felt like, wow, it must have been a close fight. But like. So I can't say nothing for him on what he should say. So he obviously thought that. Well, you watched, and he also thinks when he watched the fight back, he won. I've seen he thinks he won 7 out of 5 or something. So he won by 2 rounds. But most of the boxing world and most of everyone doesn't think that. So you just got to be respectful in what you're doing. I mean, you're coming across as a bit of an idiot. Respectfully, you're coming like I'm not. You know what I mean? So. Is behave a little bit. It's not. You don't just. If that was me, if I was in his position, like the better man won. The better man won, and well done. Congratulations, going. We both got out of the ring, unscathed. None of us went to hospital. None of us was hurt, injured, like to the point where we have to, be seen to. Both be happy that we got out of the ring and we can go back to our families and like you say, enjoy Christmas and just be grateful that we've given the opportunity. And thank you to the opponent. That's what I'd say. He's not saying that. It was disregarding the fact that I just done. It is what it is. You think what you want. He can think what he want. Nobody can't tell him how to think as a grown man, as I am. So, I have no. It is what it is. No thoughts in it.
Lyndon Arthur versus Anthony Yarde 2. How does that fight go?
If that fight happens, I win again. You beat somebody once, you can do it again.
Right, Lyndon, before I let you go, just want to give you the opportunity now. The floor is yours, my friend, to thank and, to give messages to all of those people who have been messaging you and wishing you well and reacting to your performance this past weekend. What message have you got for people who probably a few quid richer as well before a difficult Christmas after your win over Anthony?
Everyone that bet for me, Merry Christmas. Yeah, you're welcome. Yeah, and everyone that supports me and everyone that's sent me messages I've not got back to, sorry, but again, thank you. It's overwhelming. Your support means untold amount. Thank you. Yeah, man, and thank you to my sponsors, all my sponsors that have that support me throughout my career constantly. Thank you. I appreciate that. Well, so much. My family as well that support me. My mum, she'll say I'm a pain in the ass, but she's my number one supporter, and she loves me, and this fight for her was. I know she was nervous. She didn't want to come to the fight. She had an opportunity. She could have come after. She would have come, and she said yeah, but then she's like, oh, do you want your friends to go? And I know because she was nervous about it, and so my mum rock for me. So you have to thank her as well. And like I said, just my family and everyone that supports me, man. I'm just grateful for the opportunities I've been given in this life.
Well said. I can't believe you almost got to the end without thanking your mum.
Yeah, I know. What an idiot. What an idiot I would have been for doing that.
Okay, Lyndon Arthur, still Commonwealth Light Heavyweight Champion and the new WBO Intercontinental Light Heavyweight Champion. Thanks very much for speaking to Boxing Social and appearing on the Boxing Social podcast. Congratulations again on your win this past weekend. So that was the Commonwealth Light Heavyweight and new WBO Intercontinental Light Heavyweight Champion Lyndon Arthur. Bit of a chip on his shoulder, Mr. Arthur. I mean, he's bang on because we've spent most of the segment talking about their fight, talking about Anthony Yarde and what went wrong with Anthony Yarde and what Anthony Yarde needs to do. But first and foremost, credit where credit's due for Lyndon Arthur winning the fight. Not only, winning the fight, but winning it with one arm.
Yeah, I thought Lyndon was fantastic. He's on the Great Britain boxing squad, and I used to go there, and I used to see him all the time, but I didn't know who he was. I didn't know who he was until about 7 or 8 pro fights in, and I started hearing about him. And I remember watching one of his fights, and I thought, that's who he is. That's his name. Super talented, though. Brilliant. I think he's one of the best jobs in British boxing. Anthony Yarde, he's Anthony Yarde, one of the most well-known people in British boxing at the minute. For one reason or another, maybe Tundi's done people talk about Tundi all the time, but he's done a great job of promoting him, hasn't he? Do you know what I mean? So that's why people care more about Anthony Yarde than Lyndon Arthur, but Lyndon Arthur won, and if he keeps winning, eventually people are going to be talking about him.
Yeah, it's just unfortunately. I say unfortunately, it's just the sport, and not even necessarily just boxing. It's Manchester United, or not Man United, because they're not. You're a big fan of the Fergie era Man United. Say that Manchester United drops points at home to Sunderland. Everybody's talking about United, and not necessarily Sunderland. With the greatest of respect to Sunderland, and that's kind of, I feel like, what's happened since then. But you're right. He's now beaten a very high-profile fighter in Anthony Yarde. By all accounts, the rematch looks likely. I mean, admittedly, Lyndon, he's very clear in the sense of he will fight anybody, anytime, anywhere. He's the fighter, and he lets his team do that. But you would think that a rematch is going to happen, and he deserves his praise and his credit, as he said there. Everybody was talking about the beast from the East and the fact that he was this big, massive puncher and this monster. I still want them to talk about the monster and just know the fact that I beat him. Whereas I don't feel like he feels that he's getting the appropriate credit.
Well, everyone that I spoke to just said Lyndon beat him. Everyone said he beat him. Do you know what I mean? He's going to get a lot of money for his next fight. And if he beats him again, or if he beats whoever next, you get more money in a bigger fight the time after. You know, this is how boxing works. I wasn't even the best fighter within 50 miles of my house, but people talk about me all the time. That's just the sport. That's the sport that we're in. You know, and Lyndon, I like Lyndon. I'm a big fan of him. I respect him. I like him. He seems like a really easygoing fella. But easygoing and sound and all the rest of it, you know, doesn't quite put bums on seats and excite people the same way Lions in the camp clearly does. But that's boxing. All you got to do is keep winning.
What would you like to see next for him? I mean, obviously the rematch is the most likely option, but we spoke earlier about, you know, if Anthony Yarde were to take himself away and think, okay, maybe not that, maybe go elsewhere, however likely or unlikely that is going to be, what would you like to see next for Lyndon Arthur? Because admittedly, beating Anthony Yarde, it's a big win, but there's still your Callum Johnsons, your Joshua Buatsis on these shores alone before you start looking at a still really, really tough light heavyweight division.
Well, Saturday afternoon, everyone was saying Yarde, Buatsi, Callum Johnson, weren't they? They were the three best light heavyweights in the country. They're all capable of being world champions. They're all capable of beating each other. Now Lyndon's beat Anthony Yarde, so Lyndon's name should be in that conversation now. It must be. Who should he fight next? Well, he's not going to fight Buatsi or Callum Johnson because they're with Matchroom. Same reason why Anthony Yarde's not going to fight either of them. What's next for Lyndon if he doesn't fight Anthony Yarde? I don't know. But I hope it's lots of money and I hope it's a big opportunity for him because he earned it Saturday night.
And also earned it with, I mean, however injured his hand was, he said it was kind of wear and tear and it's something that he's had to manage and has been building up towards the fight. He still won the fight without using his right hand. So we still really don't know how good he is. You know, you add a healthy Lyndon Arthur and a full use of his right hand to the Lyndon Arthur that we saw at the weekend, and you could have an even better prospect than what we think.
Well, we've got a very good fighter. We've got one that was on the Great Britain squad for years. We've got a Commonwealth champion. We've got a man that should beat Anthony Yarde and a few other good wins on his record. We've got a very good fighter here. Where he goes, I don't know. You know, you've got likes of Beterbiev, Gavodzic. The lightweight division is littered with unbelievable talent, you know, mainly from the Eastern Europe, you know, some very good Americans as well. The Colombian Canadian fella, you know.
Later Alvarez.
So, is he going to be world champion? Very difficult to say. I wouldn't say that about confidence about a Buatsi or a Johnson or a Yarde, but he's going to be in some big fights now and he's going to be able to financially secure himself at the very least, and that's what you're getting the game for. So I'm very happy for him.
Before we move on, you're talking about the light heavyweights. You mentioned Beterbiev, a fighter that I know that you quite like the look of, and I've watched a fair bit of, as we all have. Joe Smith Jr. Mm-hmm. Joe Smith is rumoured to be fighting Artur Beterbiev, which would be a hell of a fight.
Yeah, great fight, brilliant fight. I think Beterbiev is the number one man. Beterbiev's scary, man. I don't even want to talk about him. I'm a bit nervous talking about him. I'm looking around the corner and stuff for him. He's that kind of man, and he's fierce and he's strong, he's tough, he's hard. He's just made of different stuff than me. Do you know what I mean? But Joe Smith will come and have a go. Be a great fight, you know. But the likes of your Arthurs, your Yarde, Buatsis and that, they've got a long way to go to get anywhere near the Beterbiev, in my opinion, as good as they are, and they're all very good fighters that I've just mentioned.
Yeah, I mean, he's not undisputed, but he's universally recognised as the number one light heavyweight in the world after Beterbiev. Before we move on and talk about Spence-Garcia, just touch on last week, Daniel Dubois versus Joe Joyce. We spoke about it briefly, so we won't dwell on it too much, but just getting some of your thoughts, really. Again, Lyndon saying that last week everybody was talking about Daniel Dubois. This week everybody's talking about Anthony Yarde. What were your kind of overriding thoughts of Dubois versus Joyce? Because you were one of the few, I say one of the few, but you were one of the notable ones who I spoke to the day after the fight who was, you know, very supportive of Daniel Dubois and his decision to save himself for another day.
Well, I've been there and done it, and it happened to me, and I was really sad watching it. You know, during the fight, I've known Joe many years, and I wanted him to win, to be honest. I wanted Joe to win. He's 34. You know, if he'd lost last Saturday, there's not much, you know what I mean? He needed to win. Daniel didn't need to win. Joe needed to. And I wanted Joe to win. I did want him to win. But when Daniel went down to a knee and it was counted out, I was gutted for him because physically he's higher and the rest of it, but when you're a boxer, when you're a fighter as you are, it breaks your heart that. And I know for a fact it'll take him a long time to get over it. When I boxed David Price, when I quit in the corner, still I was never the same. I've never been the same, and still not the same now. You know, it's something that takes a long time to get over. And the same as me, the same with Daniel, the same with other fighters in the past. It's not quitting. You know, you're reaching your limit. He reached his limit. He would have been. I know how he was feeling. He'd been terrified. He's in there with Joe Joyce. Joe Joyce is constantly smacking him in the face, and he's thinking, "I'm going to go blind." When I watched David Price during the back end of the fight, I remember thinking, "I'm dying." Genuinely, I was literally in there thinking, "I'm dying. I'm going to die. I'm dying. What is wrong with me? So something severely wrong. I'm dying." So I know for a fact he must have been thinking, "I'm going to go blind." He's a 23-year-old boy. He's a boy when I was 23-year-old. I was a boy. He's thinking, "I'm going blind." He's thinking, I really, really sympathise with him, and I'm not going to say his trainer or his corner did a bad job, but you got a 23-year-old kid there. You know, look after him. You can't see out of his eye. Couldn't see out of it for numerous rounds. Yeah, there's millions of pounds to say. Yeah, it's a lot of money, but I think when we see Daniel next, he'll have a different team with him. I think, and that's not me having a dig at his training team. It's me just saying, I think we'll see him with a different team now because he'll come back, and I think we'll see a very different Daniel Dubois than what we've seen previously.
I mean, it's probably difficult for people to see now, but could it be? I mean, it's never really a good thing to lose the fight, albeit, you know, especially under those circumstances. But now he's not going to have the pressure of being, you know, because he was, you know, we heard from when he started boxing that he was going to be, you know, he was going to break Mike Tyson's record. He was going to be the dominant heavyweight after Tyson Fury, and he was going to be this, that, and the other. He's not got that now. It's been, you know, taken away from him, admittedly not in the circumstances that he would have liked, but he can, in theory at least, come back and proper rebuild now. I mean, hindsight's a wonderful thing in boxing, but the fact that he was kind of mooted as potential opponents for Alexander Usyk and Dillian White and fighters like that, I think now he's had that loss and the type of loss that it is, he's going to need to go away and rebuild and won't necessarily have that weight of the world on his shoulders.
Well, I said before the fight, I think Joe Joyce will win. Daniel Dubois will still be a heavyweight champion of the world, and I still think that'll be the case. I don't think Joe will win it. I don't think Joe will win a world title, but I think Daniel will. And that's boxing. That's how crazy boxing is. Look over the years, though. Look over history. The amount of fighters. Look at Barrera and Junior Jones. He knocked him out. Look at the careers and the trajectory where he went after and stuff like that. And I think this will be the same. Joe's a great fighter, but he's 34. Last Saturday is the best we're going to see of him. He's not going to get any better. I think Daniel, again, talking about new trainers all the time, and I hate doing it, but Daniel can be so much better than he is currently, in my opinion. And I'm not saying that his current coach team can't unlock that, but I think after Saturday it's unlikely that they'll get the chance. But I think Daniel will go on to be the next heavyweight that rules the division for years. And I think in 3 to 5 years' time, he'll be the main man. He'll probably have all the belts. I think he's that good. I just think he needs a bit of he's 23 years of age. You know, Mike Tyson, it just shows Mike Tyson what a one-off he was to do it at that age. Because at 23, not just his physical maturity, Daniel's years away from that, but mentally, you know, at 28 now, only am I starting to have a little bit of maturity, and it ain't a lot. So I've still got all the faith in Daniel being a heavyweight champion, but some changes have to be made.
Okay, so moving on from all of the stuff this weekend, Errol Spence returned to the ring after a hellacious car crash last year. Made a successful return against Danny Garcia. A lot of talk going into the fight. Is he going to be the same? Is he not going to be the same? I thought Errol Spence looked pretty well.
Danny Garcia is a great fighter. Beat Matisse when he was on a roll. Beat Khan. Got some of the great wins on his record. And like you say, Spence did the job easy enough. That shows how good he is. You know, the only fight I want to see is Spence and Crawford. The best fight in boxing. Unbelievable fight. That's the one I want to see. I want to see that more than Joshua Fury, to be honest.
It's interesting.
Yeah. Crawford, Spence, two of the best pound-for-pound fighters on the planet.
Well, he was there on Saturday night. Terence Crawford was there in attendance. Obviously, we're still waiting to see what's going on with his contract at Top Rank, depending on who you listen to. That's potentially, well, not potentially, that's up for renewal or is expiring at some point next year. So you would think that there's certainly a chance of him going over to PBC and getting those fights. I mean, if he does, I think it's probably unrealistic to expect him to go straight into PBC. I think they'll probably want him to fight some other PBC guys first. But you look at all of those fights that he can make for Terence Crawford over there. Sean Porter, Keith Thurman, Adrian Broner even would be a good seller. Obviously, Errol Spence, Yordanis Ugas, Andre Berto. I mean, admittedly not the same level as those other guys, but you'd think that those are the fights for him. But back to Errol Spence, was very impressed with how he was able to really, he didn't really, to me, show much effects, if any effects, from the accident last year, and was able to really, I wouldn't say dominated the fight, but he won the fight very clearly.
Yeah, but like I was just saying, Garcia's an unbelievable fighter himself. Garcia's a top 5 welterweight in the world for me, and he showed the difference between number one or two and Crawford, and the gap between them two and the rest, which I think is quite vast. You know, and that's saying a lot when you talk about how good the likes of the Garcia, Thurman, you Porters are, because they're really world class. But them two, Crawford and Spence, are special. Like Crawford for me is the best fighter on the planet. I think Spence's natural size and the fact that he's probably number 3 or 4 pound for pound himself just makes it an unbelievable fight. That's just the best fight in boxing, Rob. I think.
You do think, and you would talk into the microphone from now on. But yes, it is a great fight, but it's just one of those things. We've seen it so many times before. I mean, admittedly, a much lower scale or a much, it's not the same level fight, but Anthony Yarde versus Joshua Buatsi now looks like it's, I mean, the likelihood of that fight happening after what we saw at the weekend is pretty slim, I think, certainly anytime soon. And that's the thing about boxing. We're one fight away, one punch away from these big fights being completely taken away from us. If Danny Garcia would have landed that left hook and knocked Errol Spence out on Saturday night, then Spence Crawford would have gone by the wayside, and we would have been wondering and scratching our heads for a while about who would have won that.
If they get beat in the meantime, they're not as good as you thought they were, are they? I guess. It's like Mayweather Pacquiao. Pacquiao got knocked out by Marcus, took the shine off it, didn't it? It happened before that. It'd been the biggest fight of the last 30 years. It didn't, so it wasn't as exciting. I see everything in black and white because I'm boring and miserable.
Where would you see Manny Pacquiao fitting into that? Obviously, the last time we saw him in the ring was...
yeah, I'm not the biggest Manny Pacquiao fan in the world. You know what I mean? Nearly 40, up at welterweight, still doing his thing. Crazy, isn't it? How does he do it?
I don't know, David. How does he do it?
I don't know.
You're a retired fighter now. You can be more opinionated.
Yeah, I've got an idea how he does it. Yeah.
I think next year, if we can see Errol Spence...
Lots of jabbing.
Lots of jabbing. Right, don't get us sued, David.
Lots of jabbing. You've got a great jab.
He has got a great jab, yes. Errol Spence versus Manny Pacquiao. Who wins?
Spence is too big, I think. We said that about the Margaritos and other people. Obviously.
Everybody's been big for him. Yeah.
Up at like middleweight as well,
yeah.
Margarito, I think. But Spence is special. Spence is a special fighter. Spence is as good as a Pacquiao, and he's probably got an equally as good a jab anyway. So, yeah, good fight.
Okay, well, that's about it for our weekend roundup from this past weekend's boxing. Thank you very much to Dave Allen for returning, a triumphant return to the podcast after several weeks away. Hopefully we can get him back for the next one. As always, real pleasure. Thanks very much for stopping by and watching Boxing Social Podcast episode 9, and we'll catch up with you soon.